The last thing that we're going to do in this section is find arc length. The formula actually looks pretty simple, where we have S being our arc length. So S is arc length. Just write out these out. R is going to be the radius of your circle. And then theta is your angle, but it's important that it's in radians. It has to be in radians for this to work. If it's not, then we've got some extra work that we need to do. The interesting thing is that you guys actually did this last year, whether you believe me or not. We just didn't look at it in terms of radians. Instead, what you guys did was you looked at S, your arc length, being equal to 2 pi rx divided by 360. I would argue that these two things are exactly the same. And I'm going to show you that before we actually do a problem in here. So I'm going to rearrange a little bit of this stuff. 2 pi rx divided by 360. Notice how each one has an S and an R in here. So I'm going to separate those two. So I'm going to change this S equals 2 pi rx over 360 to now be S equals R times 2 pi x divided by 360. I have my R, which is my radius, and all of this is my angle measure. I can simplify over here. S is equal to R times 2 over 360 is 1 over 180. So pi over 180 times x. And there's your formula right there. This stayed the same. If I have S equals R theta, these two things still mean exactly the same thing. Here's my S. My R is the same. This pi times 180, that's how I convert an angle measure from degrees into radians. We learned about that in this section. And X is just your degrees. Okay, whatever that is for your angle measure. So I have exactly the two same formulas going on here. We're just going to use the easier one and just make sure that I get my angle measure in degrees right away. Right, so an example that goes off of this, we're going to use S equals R times theta. Monster truck tires have a radius of 33 inches. How far does a monster truck travel in feet after just 3/4 of a tire rotation? Okay, so I know I'm looking for S. I don't know that. R is my radius, which they tell us is 33. Okay. And then I need to find my angle measure. We do need to be a little careful though, because they want this in feet and not inches. So I need to actually convert my 33 into feet. Remember, there are 12 inches in a foot. So I'm going to take 33 divided by 12 first before I get too crazy. 33 divided by 12. Gets us approximately 2.75 feet. Now I need to get my angle measure involved. If I want to go 3/4 of a rotation, it's coming over here, 3/4 of a rotation. I think back to standard positioning, that's 3/4. That's the same thing as 270 degrees. So we're going to take 270 times pi over 180, because I need to get it into radians. 270 over 180, that's going to simplify to 3 pi over 2. And now you may multiply. To get your answer, we're going to take our radius, or our arc length is equal to our radius of 2.75 times 3 pi over 2. And I'm going to have to plug this in myself. 2.75 times 3 pi divided by 2 gets us about 12.96. or about 13. I just rounded up to about 13 feet. We'll do one more out of here. A circle has a diameter of 9 centimeters. Find the arc length if the central angle is 60 degrees. Round to the nearest 10. So S is equal to R theta. We're trying to find arc length. I need a radius. They actually give me the diameter. Remember, the radius is just half of the diameter. So 9 divided by 2 gets us 4.5. And then I need an angle measure, theta. So I'm going to take, they give it to me in degrees. I'm going to take 60 times pi over 180, which will simplify. I'll actually show you how to simplify this time. You're going to go 60 divided by 180 if you want, or you can do it by hand, doesn't matter. That'll give it to you in a decimal, but you can easily convert it back to a fraction, get you a third, so it's the same thing as pi over 3. Find your arc length, take your radius, 4.5 times pi over 3. And when you do that, you're going to get approximately 4.7 centimeters, which will represent your arc length.